humbly acknowledge your gracious presence on the dais. I request Ms. Shradha Sharma ji from Your Story Media, and I acknowledge her presence on the dais. And I request her to kindly begin the fireside chat, the first session of the post-lunch program. Let's give a good round of applause, please.
थैंक यू सो मच। अभी मैं सब लोगों को, यहाँ पे कितने लोगों को हिंदी आती है, कितने को नहीं आती है? हु डजंट नो? ओके, ओनली वन पर्सन, देन वी विल से दैट द नेक्स्ट पर्सन कैन ट्रांसलेट। क्योंकि मैं एक जोक कहना चाह रही थी कि अभी तो वो मैडम ने कहा कि लेट्स गिव अ बिग राउंड ऑफ अप्लॉज एंड ऑल ऑफ यू आर सिटिंग, बट मैं चाहती हूँ और हम, ये मेरी पूरी उम्मीद है कि जो मिनिस्टर मेरे बगल में बैठे हैं, इस फायर साइड चैट के बाद आप लोग जेन्युइनली बिग राउंड ऑफ अप्लॉज देंगे और हमें बोलना नहीं पड़ेगा कि अप्लॉज कीजिए। तो इसके साथ अब हम शुरू करते हैं। यू नो, आई एम वेरी एक्साइटेड। आज मैं रोड से आ रही हूँ दिल्ली से, तो ऑफ कोर्स इट हैज बीन अ लॉन्ग राइड। तो मैंने देखा इवेंट का नाम है इंडिया इंटरनेशनल साइंस फेस्टिवल। तो मैंने सर्च किया कि इंडिया में सबसे पहला साइंस फेस्टिवल कब हुआ था। एनी गेसेस? एक टॉफी मिलेगा। सबसे पहला साइंस फेस्टिवल कब हुआ था? यस? हाँ, ओके, 2015। और वन टॉफी आई गिव यू, बट और कब हुआ था? हाँ, कोई बात नहीं, चैट जीपीटी खोल लीजिए और पढ़ लीजिए। इंडिया में सबसे पहला साइंस फेस्टिवल 2500 साल पहले हुआ था। और नालंदा और तक्षशिला में साइंस फेस्टिवल, उसको कहते थे नॉलेज फेस्टिवल, जहां पे सब लोग आते थे, साइंटिस्ट भी आते थे, ट्रेडर्स भी आते थे, और बात होती थी। सो अब मुझे लगा कि 2500 साल बाद इस देश में, हमारे भारत देश में, यहाँ पे we are doing India International Science Festival. You know, it is not just an event. It is very significant. It is very significant for a country which was known for its science, and a country which moving forward will be known for its science. And I am so happy, क्योंकि मैं बैठी हूँ बगल में, इसलिए नहीं बोल रही हूँ। मैंने इनको सुना, मिनिस्टर को, और देखा कि जेन्युइनली कितना नॉलेज और कितना कमिटमेंट और पैशन रखते हैं। And if we have someone like him leading in science and technology, then I know for us, for our children, and more importantly for our children, and the India of next 20 years cannot be an India of whatever we are imagining Viksit without science and technology. So Minister, thank you so much. And second, I want to also congratulate you, क्योंकि ये बहुत बड़ी बात है जो आपने R&D फंड शुरू किया है। ग्लोबली हम कह रहे थे यूएस के पास है, चाइना के पास है, इंडिया के पास क्यों नहीं है? And now finally that has happened. So congratulations. Please tell us about it.
No, thank you. Thank you. At the outset, I have to thank you for a very your generous comments about this event that is happening. And ये वो टॉफी फिर आप खुद ही खा लेंगी, क्योंकि यहाँ से तो टॉफी वाला कोई मिला नहीं, तो she has taken the toffee.
No
So
need to
congratulations.
give.
No, congratulations. The first toffee goes to her. But now, as far as RDI fund is concerned, I think US के बाद भी नहीं, in fact, possibly this is one of the unique initiatives. Industry को कोई fund नहीं करता, industry से we look for funding.
Yes.
But since we have suddenly opened up some of the sectors which were hitherto either underexplored or unexplored or not at all available to the private sector, and even private sector had got used to not being participant in those sectors. Like for example, nuclear sector. तो हुआ क्या कि they were mostly concentrating or focusing on the sectors which were available to them, like of course good businessmen. The smart businessmen will go by the market dynamics.
Yes.
So nuclear sector, for example, or even space sector did not exist in his scheme of planning his business. अब suddenly खुला है तो उनको तैयार कैसे करना? So it's a kind of a catalyzing initiative. Initially we fund them in a way, loan them long range, little interest, very minimal interest, just 3% or even less than that, in order to enable them to gear up for the new initiative. And finally, of course, we will expect that they also take over and become active participants in the making of India.
Yeah. Minister, the question I have for you, or I'm sure everyone will have, is that today, how convinced you are that we have moved from being a traditional economy to an innovation economy? And if we are an innovation economy today, because you are talking about it, you are living this, then what do you think are two, three things, critical things driving that innovation
No,
economy?
I think it's important for us to understand that for the first time in the last 1 decade under Prime Minister Modi, and I think the credit largely goes to the political dispensation because we never had the dearth of talent in this country or the dearth of potential in this country or dearth of commitment. If you go to the archives, you'll find the pictures of Vikram Sarabhai carrying some of his saman on the carriage of bicycle. So possibly what was lacking was the kind of support which is expected from the policymakers, which is expected from the political dispensation of the day, which was not happening, which started happening after 2014. And now we also realize that entire economic growth globally, not only for India, in the decades to come, will be technology driven. And I'm glad and I'm also satisfied to a great extent that we are not late initiators. Like for example, last technology from the industrial revolution was IT driven. Next one is going to be, and that's an opinion across the world among the economists, is going to be largely bio driven, regenerative processes, recycling, genetic driven, and we are already into this. So we are now no longer followers. Rather, we are offering cues for others to follow. We beckon others to follow. So that is the whole change in scenario, and that's happened because the approach of the political dispensation has changed. We are now following the same global strategies which were earlier followed by some of those developed nations who made it to the goal of success. So we are now on the right global track and
Yeah.
ready to play a global role, as you said.
Yeah. ये हम पहले थोड़ा बोलते थे, there was more of bravado, but today we feel it as a country कि हम किसी से कम
Yeah,
नहीं हैं.
yeah, but that bravado was just a makeup for the inner vacuum which was there. Like I tell you, for example, the most talked about presidential election in USA has been that of 1960. You know why? Because suddenly a handsome young man of 40 years, good looking, good orator, very charming, very rich, very knowledgeable, called John Kennedy, turned the tables on a veteran called Richard Nixon. And all that happened because of a television debate. And we got to see the first Chitrahar, that too black and white, in Delhi. That was in 1970. So we were much behind. So the bravado was apparently a makeup or a put on for what we actually were deficient. But it's no longer so. We are confident, and I think the best measure of the confidence is that we don't have to show the bravado. The rest of the world is looking up to us. They are now celebrating our success stories, trying to learn from our success story. You'll be surprised. It's not only science and technology, because incidentally, I'm dealing with a host of other departments. In the last 6 months, we have had delegations from at least 6 other countries, 7 other countries, who have come here to study our grievance redressal models, our digital certificate generation models for the elder citizens. So we have started, creating models for the rest of the world. Even in science, for that matter, when we are talking of, for example, nuclear energy, we are talking about space. We are no longer limiting ourselves to sending up rockets. Though rocket looks romantic, so that makes big news. But we have dedicated these, we have created for the rest of the world a beautiful model of how to use these applications for ease of living in agriculture, in medicine, in healthcare, in disaster management. So that's the difference. So we are now creating role models for the rest of the world. And to correct to what you said, 2,500 years back, we are actually now trying to recreate the same scenario, and hopefully we succeed sooner
Yeah.
than later.
Yes, and why not? When the government, the people, the talent, when it all aligns, then of course magic will happen. You talked about space sounds romantic, and yesterday, day before, Elon, no, Sam Altman of OpenAI talked about his foray into space. So after Elon Musk, it's Sam Altman. But in India, we have, and I would love if Minister you can talk about it. We have more than 240 startups, space tech startup, and they're actually solving population problem, right? Like be it agriculture or this, and the government has also opened the space. Can you talk to
Yeah,
us about
absolutely,
it?
absolutely. I think that's also happened only under this government, because earlier on, like we were talking about the nuclear sector, even the space sector was shut off for the private players. So it was somewhere around 2018-19 the decision was taken. And then we came out subsequently with a set of new space reforms. The public sector was allowed. Once there was a time, not long ago, just about more than about half a decade ago, even the media persons were forbidden from entering the gates of Sriharikota to watch a launch happening. So the first time I went there I saw a lodge. That was when the chairman happened to be a friend. So he took me in the middle of night and he said, "Doc, I'll take you to a spot where even my scientists are forbidden because it's a totally prohibited area." So that was in the middle of night. The launch was to happen at 4 o'clock in the morning. So you know what I told him? I said, "Ram, I rather I try to learn one new thing every day. What I learned today is to reach here, either I should be as eminent a scientist as you are, a jagadu as I am." So then I asked myself, why are we forbidding this when everything is visible on the satellite through the other means? And I'm glad that Prime Minister was so open to it. He allowed us, and this magic of these startups, as you mentioned rightly, has happened only after that. We had just one digit startup in space sector, just three or four. Today we have close to 400, and some of them global potential. The first generation ones have turned into multimillionaires. They are now role models for the rest of the world. So all this has happened because we have now involved the whole of society. So it's like whole of government plus whole of society plus whole of nation. So every citizen has become a partner in this growth story.
Yeah. And Minister, if you can also talk about Bharat, because I'm from Bihar and I've been okay, so I was in Bihar for last few months, staying right there, going to different districts, and I realized that you talked about this right now in that round table. The aspiration, it's unbelievable. It's hungry, it's positive. मतलब चैलेंज जो भी हो हम उखाड़ लेंगे वाला एटीट्यूड है. आप सरकार क्या कर रही है
Well,
इसके लिए?
yeah, I'm glad you asked that because you see, aspiration comes with confidence of the opportunities being equally available and the field being level playing.
Yes.
अगर
Yes.
आपके जहन में एस्पिरेशन दब जाती है, that's because you give up, कि भाई ठीक है. And that was possibly what was happening in the earlier decades. They thought some of the opportunities were available only to the high and mighty, to those who wielded influence in the corridors of power. तो बस अब हमें किसने पूछना, तो हमने जाने का फायदा ही क्या है?
Yeah.
या तो आपका कोई गॉडमैन हो या कोई बाप हो या ससुर हो, हमें किसने पूछना?
Yes.
तो वो खत्म ही हो जाता था. वो जैसे क्या है कि वो शायर का शेर है कि तू नहीं, तेरा गम नहीं, तेरी जुस्तजू भी नहीं.
Yes.
तो पहले तो तू नहीं, फिर उसके बाद गम नहीं, फिर उसके बाद जुस्तजू. You give up. So that
Yes.
was happening. Now with the democratization of opportunities and thanks to these gadgets like this, information being available even to the smallest towns and villages, and youth particularly, the Gen Z as we fondly call them, have realized that they can make it. You and see the what has happened in the last 1 decade. If you see the civil services, the entire demography has changed. Gone are the days when the IS was only from Bihar or IS was only from Tamil Nadu or Kerala. Today you have toppers from Punjab, the place where we are sitting, Haryana, and girl toppers
Wow.
consecutively every year. Because the only 2 years back we had a girl who was 11th topper from a small college in a small town located exactly on the border of the Pakistan occupied Kashmir called the Punch, which you must have heard for wrong reasons, for exchange of fire, etc. So because every now information, knowledge, preparation available in this, you don't have to seek the advantage of a big library or need to have a big fortune behind you for that.
Yes.
And so it's all just passion. And the boys and girls living in the smaller towns have an urge to also prove that, look here, I can also do it. Why only someone from Bengaluru or someone from Hyderabad? Of course, these cities have the advantage of a better ecosystem, no doubt. But the aspiration level is tremendously high, and I sometimes feel it's higher even in the smaller towns.
Yes.
So there's a democratization of not only opportunities, also the talent.
Yeah. Yeah. If you had to say that one metrics as a country we should look at when it comes to innovation, or something that you track or your department tracks, that okay हम सही रास्ते में अच्छे रास्ते में और ये metrics दर्शाता है दिखाता है, तो what would that be?
I think as is the time-tested formula, it is sustainability. I'm a very hardcore realistic. I don't fancy pretensions neither for myself nor for others. I don't get impressed too easily about my what I am doing, and don't get impressed even by others. So I am such a hardcore. So I would say sustainability. When I say so in the context startup, I am a firm believer, as I said in the opening remarks this morning also, you have to have a strong market linkage, a strong industry linkage. Like for example, however ideal may be the subject or the theme of a startup, however lofty may be the ideals, सुनने में कितना आदर्शवादी लगता है, but when a boy or a girl finds his or her peer driving in a BMW and having a better lifestyle than you, then the boy will tend to think, hell with what am I doing, better not do what he's doing. So we have to give the youngster, and particularly when we talk of Gen Z, a whole package which also involves social security and social milieu, which gives him the confidence of being equal to others, not lesser than others, not just because he's a researcher or he's an innovator or he's given to this kind of a startup business, so he's being left out in the socio-economic strata. So I think that is important, and that is now happening in India. So our startups are becoming millionaires. You will be surprised.
Billionaires.
Yeah, you will be surprised in our agri startups. The lavender startup, which was launched only about 7 years back, where we don't have too many PhDs doing it, but they have the technology aptitude, the passion. Over there, some of the, at least I know of 3 boys who left their corporate jobs in Bengaluru and took over to this. When I asked them why, they said we were working for the company for 15 hours a day and making less money than what we are making over here. So this kind of esteem of doing what you are doing, and esteem of making a good life standard for yourself, so that you don't have to feel complexed when you sit in the company of somebody else. That is the sustainability, and that's happening now. And I think that is the one biggest metric, as you said.
Yeah. Minister, this question, like one keeps discussing, I had little bit asked you in the round table, but I want you to tell me, how do you reflect about it? We are more or less still a middle class India, where a middle class parent, when a child gets born, usko ek hi job lage, abhi bhi large part hai कि हमारा job हो जाए, salary हो जाए, EMI लेते हैं अभी भी, MBA करना है या जो भी करना है education के लिए. ऐसे इंडिया में अगर हमें साइंटिस्ट बनाना है, PhD करके यहीं पे डीप टेक स्टार्टअप बनाना है, और बन रहा है, एंड वी हैव वेरी गुड डीप टेक स्टार्टअप्स इन द कंट्री, मगर उसको एक फिनोमिना, एक मूवमेंट बनाना है, आप कैसे सोचते हैं हम कर
No, I
सकते हैं?
totally agree with you, because there is a Sarkari Naukri mindset, because we have been under colonial rule for nearly 2 centuries, so that feudal mindset we had inherited from our parents.
Yeah.
So we inherited from parents, but we saw the transition happening, so we possibly changed to an extent. Those who were born after 2000 did not see that, so they are absolutely, born in a different mold. But that feudal conditioning takes time to go,
Yeah.
and that's why. Uh, but now, when the new openings are offering much more lucrative avenues compared to Sarkari Naukri, the young boys and girls of the current generation have started realizing that. So I think gradually it will happen, because जैसे कहते हैं संस्कार बदलने में 3 पीढ़ियां लगती हैं, चाहे बुरा संस्कार हो अच्छा है. So it will take 2 generations, and now I think the generation has arrived which is taking up this, and gradually, that's why I'm insisting in most of these conclaves that we should have at least one session where each youngster is accompanied with at least one of the parents or one guardian, because they also need to be educated, and it's not to grudge them, because no parent would like to mislead the child. उन्होंने जो सोचा है, जो समझा है, जो अपने अनुभव और तजुर्बे से उनको लगता अच्छा है, वो अपनी वो सीख देते हैं, वो सबक देते हैं, लेकिन उन्हें ये मालूम नहीं कि अब नए कौन से आयाम खुल गए हैं. So if you educate the parent or the elder simultaneously, then possibly the challenge would be easier.
Yeah, and do you think your department would work in that direction?
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. We are working in that direction. We are also not only targeting the parents, we are also targeting school children. We have started a scheme called Star Colleges, where we have started promoting mentorship, given charge of a couple of students to a teacher, and ask them to identify the talent. What happens is that in these formative adolescent years, if you leave a youngster to himself or herself, he or she tends to sometimes overestimate or underestimate. Like, for example, मैं बॉम्बे जाता हूँ या मुंबई जाता हूँ, तो मैं सोचता हूँ कि मैं, मेरी माँ कहती है मैं देखने में बहुत अच्छा लगता हूँ, जैसे हर माँ कहती है, तो मुझे लगता है मैं तो भाई अब सीधा जाके वहां देवानंद बन जाऊंगा. फिर बाद में वहां पर चलता कि ना, ये तो नहीं हो रहा. फिर मैं सोचता हूँ करेक्टर एक्टर चलो वो भी नहीं हुआ, फिर कोई कहता है नहीं कहानी लिखनी शुरू, वो भी नहीं, बाद में हो सकता है मैं कैंटीन ही बनानी पड़े वहां स्टूडियो में। सो टू द mentorship is required to educate the child about what is optimally available to him as his capacity, his caliber, his potential, also his aptitude. And and again giving credit to this government, this National Education Policy 2020 is a great enabler. It doesn't push you into following a pursuit by default. So I think and that has given a lot of confidence even to the teenagers, even to the young girls reading in some of the remote government schools.
Yeah, I have to, Minister, congratulate this government, because somewhere we always, every day we wake up, and I am included in that, we see what is wrong. And I've just said that every day I will also pick what is one thing right. And when you start looking at it, then genuinely दिखता है और काम करते हैं. मतलब one of the big things I would say about the government is that the government is working round the clock, and they, when they
Thank you,
promise,
thank
then
you, thank you.
sometimes they are actually living up to their commitment, which is like very startup-y.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's been the Prime Minister Modi has brought in a huge lot of change in the work culture, in the government corridors, also change in the political culture, reach out to those who need you. Like, for example, I'll just give you an example of one or two schemes which are floated by this government. We have this scheme called Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Wherever you find a homeless person, you construct a house. You don't ask his caste, you don't ask his creed, you don't ask his religion, you don't even ask him which party he voted for. Give him time enough to change his mind and determine for himself what is good for. Like Ujjwala Yojana, any housewife in need of a gas cylinder would be provided one, regardless of who she is, what is her background. So this is actually the spirit of democracy, which has given confidence to the citizen who earlier felt that he was left out.
Yeah, today everyone is being included.
And otherwise, also thanks to the communicators like you, those days of hollow sloganeering are gone. I think in the times to come, and it's already started happening. When you talk to a citizen, especially young, small citizen, a young age citizen or youngster, you have to talk with uh, some kind of a conviction or some evidence. You either convince him or get convinced. It can't.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
पुराने जमाने में जब हम युवा कार्यकर्ता थे तो वो कहते थे जी इलेक्शन में जाइए, पार्क में बैठे बुजुर्ग के घुटने दबाइए, वो सारे परिवार के वोट डलवा देगा। आजकल ऐसा नहीं है।
नहीं.
अगर माता पिता बच्चे को कहते हैं तो बच्चा फेसबुक निकालता है, कहती है देखिए जी श्रद्धा जी ने क्या लिखा है इसके बारे में, ऐसा दुष्ट आदमी आप कह रहे हैं वोट देना। वो अपने बाप का भी माइंडसेट बदल देता है। तो द यंगस्टर इज टुडे द ओपिनियन मेकर,
Yes.
सो वी विल हैव टू गो बाय हिज parameters, and his parameter is they come out with tark tathya tulla.
Yeah, true, very true. You can't, if I may say, आज जो था ना, पब्लिक है सब जानती है, यंग लोग तो जरूरत से ज्यादा जानते हैं आज के डेट में. Yes. Okay, I have to ask you, what to you personally, as a professional, as a politician, as a minister, what gives you a sense of pride about India of today?
I think to me, like many others from my generation, it gives us a sense of pride to say that India is now different from the one we were born in
Yeah.
and from the one that we grew up. We grew up against uh, lot many constraints and lot of many disadvantages, which are not so now. And India, which today enjoys an esteem across the globe, which it never enjoyed earlier.
Yeah.
So, as I said, today, if a youngster goes abroad and says he's from India, his TRP in the employment market goes up, which was the other way around about 20 years back. And that's why in another podcast, somebody asked me in the end, any regret or any wish? I said, I can't regret because that God would be angry. So must be thankful for whatever. Just I'm there, as Hippocrates said, the very fact that we are existing in spite of all the hostilities around it itself a great blessing. So I said,
Yes.
can't be complaining. But yeah, I wish that I was born today. So
No,
that is the pride of India.
no, but you should have been born when you were born, because you have such a sense of humor.
Oh,
And
thanks.
with time and experience
No,
and age, it
if
comes.
you say so, I would like to believe this.
Yeah. No, सर 20 साल में नहीं आता है, 20 साल में बहुत स्ट्रेस होता है. आई थिंक उम्र के साथ अगर ह्यूमर रहे तो वो बहुत बड़ी
ऐसा
बात
है कि
होती
उम्र
है.
के साथ आदमी को अपने आप पर हंसना आ जाता है।
हाँ भाई. ये बहुत बड़ा गुण है मैं कहूंगी. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, you have to answer this in either one sentence or one word. One word that defines India's economic journey in the last 10 years.
I think um, the global strategies that we follow.
Okay. One sector where India will surprise the world in the next decade.
In a way, it's already started surprising, but I think in the next decade or so, when we have a human being on the surface of moon, which
Wow.
will happen in 20 years,
Wow.
15 years.
One policy decision you are most proud of.
So from the youngsters' point of view, I think the National Education Policy 2020, a big game changer. And I sometimes wonder why it didn't happen many years ago.
Yeah.
And of course, if you are talking about my department, then the opening up to the private players equally as much.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. For you, what would you say? India's biggest strength in one word: talent, scale, youth, innovation, or something else?
Talent.
Talent.
Talent which goes across the age barriers.
Yeah. One technology that will change everyday life in India the fastest.
The could be artificial intelligence if it is not handled artificially. You have to learn to handle it.
Yes, yes. One message you would give to every young startup founder today.
Don't hesitate in taking risk, and don't be shy of tying up with the potential industry partners.
Hmm.
And we are there to give you the linkage prospects.
Okay, so now this is like personal leadership questions I'm going to ask you. A book, idea, or philosophy that has shaped your leadership. It could be a book, idea, or any philosophy.
Leadership in the sense of political leadership or personal leadership or leadership at home or leadership on myself, because leadership is such a wide term.
Okay, now that you're giving it to me on a क्या कहते हैं, platter, then
No,
political
see,
leadership.
I read all sorts of books. I read political books. I read biographies. I read novels. I read fiction.
You
Every
get time to do read.
I carry 2, 3 books when I'm traveling, so I do that. If I don't find, I on every Sunday I go through the books published in the preceding week, and then I pick up what is required. Like I can tell you last 2, 3 weeks the books which have come in the market. The one that what is that, Sonu and Sonia ki loneliness. Then the one was Chetan Bhagat's. Then one is a book from Faiz Ahmed Faiz, grandson, who is a lawyer in Pakistan. So I carry. So I read all sorts of books. Even politically, I have about 500 books on the partition of India itself,
Wow.
written by Indian authors, the Pakistan authors, the immigrants, the British officers. So, but I think if you see leadership as a whole, which is a very wide term, it is not leadership confined only to the politics or only to the management of a department or the management of a family. It is how you govern yourself, and thereby you learn to govern the rest of
Yes.
what is around. So, from that point of view, I think the one book is the R.K. Narayan's Guide,
Yeah.
which I must have read about 500 times.
Yeah.
So, when I don't find a book interesting, the new book, I pick up the one I've already read and I've tested.
Wow. And sir, don't you think that book is much better than the movie?
Yes, that's also because the story has been changed.
Ah.
Have you read
Yes,
and have you
yes,
seen the movie?
yes.
So, what is the difference?
Movie I don't remember completely, to be honest. I saw it
So, what
very.
is the difference between you don't know?
I remember the book is
No,
phenomenal.
the movie had to be changed because of the dynamics of the cinema. Like, for example, in the end, the guide is seen dying, and when he dies, there is rain happening. Whereas in book, it's more of a hallucination happening. He starts hallucinating that, okay, look at the rains are coming, the clouds are coming, and he asks his caretakers to carry him to the river banks and puts his uh, feet in the surface of water, and the water starts climbing up his feet, and he realizes, oh, I'm
Oh,
getting drenched. So, and the author leaves it at that, to your imagination. Okay, does these miracles happen or not, or are they in mind? Whereas in the movie, it's actually made out to be happening.
yeah.
That is one difference, and the other difference is the character of the heroine, who's uh, painted little more positively on the celluloid because of the for the acceptance of the audience.
Yeah.
So, in fact, R.K. Narayan, if you read his book called My Life, which was his autobiography, published somewhere in 1980s, because Guide was published much earlier, somewhere in 1955 to 60. There he mentions, he says, I regret having handed over the copyrights
Oh.
for the movie, and then, but he then also goes on to explain why he did so, because he says he used to live in the house, his home was Mysore, which is now known as Mysuru, and his younger brother R.K. Lakshman lived in Mumbai. So he says, my attendant would tell me that every third day there is a gentleman actor from Bombay coming with a scarf around his neck and asking you to meet him because he wants the copyrights. So I would not. Then he says, finally, after umpteenth visits, he left a blank check. And he said that, okay, if you are not interested in selling the copyrights, if ever you decide to, you fill in the amount so that nobody else gets it. So he says, when I saw that kind of passion, I gave in. But I regret now. That's what he said.
Yeah.
So I've read the whole series of Arkin, beginning from the, the financial expert, the Bachelor of Arts, which received uh, adulation from none less than Graham Greene, who was a
Mm.
great author in the West at that time, down up to my Malgudi days and all those things. So I've read all these authors. Mulka Rajanand was his contemporary, the
Wow.
famous author of the story called The Lost Child.
But you are impressing. Like
Sorry,
a politician who is so well read. मतलब ये
I
नहीं
I think
मैं मक्खन नहीं लगा रही मुझे तो कह रहे हैं हम सब यही मानेंगे कि पॉलिटिशियन इतना मिनिस्टर
नहीं नहीं I
कि
think
इतना
that
पढ़ा
that
लिखा और इतना बुक पढ़ा हुआ
I think उससे ये फायदा रहता है कि यू रिमेन ग्राउंडेड और अपने बारे में गलत फहमी नहीं होती.
हाँ
दिक्कत क्या है कि दूसरे के बारे में गलत फहमी हो जाए तो उससे कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, कि आज श्रद्धा के बारे में ये सोच रहा हूँ, कल कुछ और सोचूंगा तो आई कैन करेक्ट माई सेल्फ, लेकिन अगर अपने बारे में ही गलत फहमी हो जाए तो मैं अपनी ही आपका शिकार हो जाऊंगा. So I think in order to keep yourself intact and truthful to yourself, that is the
so you were
biggest
reading
challenge.
it from college days you started
Yeah,
reading
I was
early
reading from the school days. In fact, I didn't, uh, out of my passion for literature, I was not, my school curriculum did not have Urdu. So I wanted to read Urdu.
हाँ
So I read Urdu during my internship. After MBBS, you have a 1 year period of internship where you're relatively not that stressed. So I got hold of, that's an interesting story, got out of a kindergarten book. तो उसमें लिखा होता था, ये गाय है, इसकी एक दुम है, इसके दो सींग हैं. So I got miserable because I was a graduate then and reading all this stuff. So somebody asked me to see Jagannath Azad. I don't know whether you heard of him, the person who wrote the first national anthem of Pakistan.
wow
On the 14th of August, when Pakistan gained independence, the first anthem, Madre Watan, was written by Jagannath Azad, who was a professor of Urdu and an expert in Iqbal. What happened was that Jinnah asked for a panel of poets who could write the first national anthem. And when he saw this name, Hindu name, he said, who is he? उन्होंने कहा साहब ये एक नौजवान Hindu शायर है. This all happening in Lahore. So he said, okay, pick him up. This is a good message. So the first anthem was written by him. So I went to him, and the interesting story is that he told me कि जिस वक्त मेरा एंथम बज रहा था रात को 12 बजे पाकिस्तान के वक्त में, उसी वक्त मेरे पड़ोसी मुसलमान आकर के मुझे भगा रहे थे कि साहब हम आपको बचा नहीं पाएंगे, आप रेलगाड़ी में बैठिए और हिंदुस्तान चले जाइए, यहाँ कत्लोगारी शुरू हो गई. And later on, of course, the national anthem was also changed. The next anthem was by Hafiz Jalandhari, जो अभी आप सुनते हैं ना, पाइंदे पाकिस्तान, वो बाद में बदल गया. So I went to him. So I told him my predicament. I said, I want to learn Urdu because I want to read Faz and read you, the original, but I don't want to start off by reading the story of cow and story of. So he could understand. He gave me a book which he had written dedicated to his daughter, Bachon Ka Iqbal. So he has introduced children to the legacy of Iqbal in their own lingo, using small alphabets. So I started out like that. So it's all your passion. That's all. Because see, earning big degrees does not educate you. It is only self-learning which helps you, and that keeps you, updated. So you have to be a good learner. not educated, but a good learner, always ready to lead.
You know, I'm genuinely very impressed. ये वाला तो story पता ही नहीं था कि ये जिन्होंने पाकिस्तान का anthem लिखा था. Yeah, wow,
For many years after independence, he was still going to Pakistan as a visiting professor on Iqbal.
wow. Now that you are a doctor also, I have one.
Also, I was a doctor. I'm a doctor first
I'm
and then
sorry,
came
but
into.
I'm going to ask you one question on behalf of every citizen of this country. Minister, how can we create more compassion? Now, the word you use, compassion, in the medical industry. I will call it an industry.
Yeah, see, uh, to be fair, not that I'm being partial to the medical fraternity because I'm part of them. I think ultimately everyone is the son or a daughter of the same society. So you can't be in a piecemeal. Simply because you become a doctor, you don't become different from the others. So the entire society is like that.
Mm.
The value system, if it is undergoing a change, is going under change for everybody. Incidentally, yes, of course, from a doctor, you expect more. But ultimately, a successful practitioner in the course of time, in course of career, learns that if he's compassionate, if he's not greedy, he goes a long way.
Yes,
Then money becomes a byproduct.
yes.
Because what is matters is trust. Now I'll tell you one more story. What happens is why a doctor loses a track in the course of his practice, because when the mistrust starts growing, when the patient feels कि साहब ये टेस्ट करवाने की जरूरत ही नहीं, उन्होंने करवा लिया क्योंकि इनकी अपनी लेबोरेटरी थी, ये बाईपास करने की जरूरत ही नहीं, उन्होंने करवा लिया, पैसे कमाने थे, then however much talented you are, you start losing clientage. So you are then charting your own, downhill course. On the other hand, you charge as much as you want, but if you have the trust and the good intention, you don't. Have you heard of Dr. B.C. Roy?
No.
Dr. B.C. Roy is known as the father of medicine. I mean, he was from Bengal, the chief minister of Bengal, in fact. He was the leading physician in the pre-independence times. He stopped practicing after he became chief minister. He used to charge a consultation fee of rupees 66 in 1940s, early 40s. And my teacher used to tell me that Dr. B.C. Roy charged 66 when 66 meant 66. Means it must be 1 lakh now. So 66 because 65 went to him and 1 rupee to his attendant who was, giving out the slips, and he also became a rich man. But people had huge trust and love for him because they know that they were not being cheated. So as long as a practitioner, whoever it is doesn't give way to mistrust happening, he's always successful. So he has to have patience to let grow things on their own, and then everything else follows.
Yeah, but you've given a very good lesson in this. What you've said is, be it a doctor or anyone, all of us are representation of the society at that
Absolutely.
time. So we are all equal stakeholders. मतलब हैं तो आप politician भी. So but this is such a true answer. Such a true answer. Okay, I've been told that we can continue listening to you. Genuinely, there's so much to talk and there's so much to, for us, a lot of new information. What would you tell? Today we are here. Everyone is gathered. आज सैटरडे शाम है, सब कोई आ रहे हैं, सुन रहे हैं. आज बहुत अच्छा अनाउंसमेंट हुआ है, and it's a big thing. Again, I don't know, maybe I don't know, whole day you guys have had conversation and you'll have in the next 2-3 days. मैं अपने जिंदगी में कह रही हूँ कि अगले 10 साल किस में इन्वेस्ट करूंगी. एक, गांव में, बिहार, यूपी और जितने भी छोटे शहर हैं, और दूसरा डीप टेक में. क्योंकि अगर इस देश को आगे बढ़ना है तो ये दो चीज हैं. और आज आप सबको ही, हम सबको ये मौका है कि हम डीप टेक में पार्टिसिपेट करें. मिनिस्टर, ये एक बड़ा अनाउंसमेंट भी हुआ है, बिकॉज डिप्लॉयमेंट पहले फंड का भी हुआ है, एंड वी आर होपिंग दैट दिस फंड ऑल्सो गेट्स डिप्लॉयड एंड वी सी अ लॉट ऑफ इनोवेशन in our country. What would you like to tell everyone as they go back to their houses after this event, and what is it that you'll want to them to take with
I
them?
no, my immediate thought is I hope they go back happy. They don't go back with this thought weighing on their head that they had to be a captive audience because the minister was there or Shraddha was there.
No, no.
So I think we should leave it at that.
Yeah, but thank you so much. And let's give a big round of applause. And I will only leave with one thought to all of you, because I'm also, we are all same. One of the things that I'm changing about myself is not to be an active critic, which I'm not actually. I'm very positive, but to be, just to see what is good. And just if we develop that, we look younger, we feel younger, we don't need doctors, and we behave very happy, and we, life and family and everything becomes
Incidentally,
very
our
happy.
next session is going to be doctor's session on
Yeah, doctor.
obesity, the much talked about subject in media these days.
Yes, and I would say that आज मैंने इसके साथ पहली बार बात की है. मैंने बहुत सारे मिनिस्टर्स और ऑनरेबल प्राइम मिनिस्टर के साथ भी बातें की है, but this is the first time, and I'm not a typical media, so you know that I'm not TV or anything. I just have to tell you one thing that I'm taking from you is humility, very grounded, सेंस ऑफ ह्यूमर. और एक चीज जो मुझे नहीं पता था कि इतना डेप्थ है आपने, और ये
नहीं, ये
बहुत
जो
अच्छा लगा मुझे.
I would take it as a compliment, also not, because humility is not to impress others. It is for one's own growth. जिस दिन मेरा पैर उखड़ जाएगा जमीन से, तो आप तो आगे बढ़ते जाएंगे, मैं वहीं रह जाऊंगा. So it's a very selfish thought, preference. So if unless you are humble, you don't learn.
Yeah,
So I'm
thank
ready
you.
to learn even from children. So I go to the high school, talk to these small girls, try to ask them, अभी विज्ञान ज्योति शुरू हुआ, आपको कैसा लगा? And you know, one girl told me, बहुत अच्छा है, लेकिन हमें शिकायत है. Why you kept this rider of class 9 to class 12? Why not me? I'm class 8. तो इससे हमको सीखने को मिलता है. तो जिस दिन
Yeah.
हमें लगा कि हम खलीफा बन गए, तो हम सीखना बन जाएंगे.
Wow, wow. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Minister. Very proud that we have someone like you in our country. Thank you so much.
Sure. We
Thank
hope to
you.
look forward again.
ये हम लोग को माइक ले लीजिए. माइक हाँ. क्या कह रहे हैं? Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the insightful discussion on evolvement of deep tech science in India. The next session shall start shortly. I request you all to please be seated till the stage is arranged.